Welcome to Connoisseurs and Conversations. I am Red Alert.
I'm Real Insight.
And this is where we come together over our mutual love for music and fine beverages and just talk about some of the stuff that we love. So what are we sipping on today?
And we sipping on this New Riff bourbon, Kentucky bourbon. Has a nice butterscotch finish to it and smooth with or without a rock. So,
all right. So before we get into today's conversation, salute.
salute.
Today is all about ladies first, or Forever My Lady. Now, we've talked about some of our favorite artists, or our foundational and contemporary artists that we listen to, but today we're focusing on the women. Before we get into that, though, just a question. Can you have a female artist or an artist of the opposite gender be your favorite?
Can I? You asking me?
I'm asking in general. Can you?
Yeah.
Can others? What do you think?
Yeah, obviously, I think so. I have favorite women singers, but they sing from a different perspective, right?
Mhm.
And so the sing-alongs are obviously different. So I think it does put a little monkey wrench there, but for the most part, yeah, I have favorite women singers. I have favorite men singers. I probably gravitate more to the male singers because of the things we have in common, the things we talk about, how I can relate to them, the stress, the pain, and all the stuff that they've gone through from a male's perspective. So I can relate to that. And so I feel it more. Therefore, I'm into it a bit more. But when we talk about favorites, though, I think that can go both ways, but I can relate, obviously, to the male singers more.
And I agree. I think it's about relatability. You can have your favorites, especially your favorite performances by male, female, whatever.
Yep.
But when it comes to relatability, I think you most relate to the gender you identify with most. Some of these female singers that we'll talk about, I love them.
Yeah.
I love some of the performances, but then there'll be some that, it's like, that's just not that particular song is my cup of tea because of whatever perspective that they're coming at it from.
Yeah. So let me ask you, do you think women get the same respect and notoriety as men do male singers in the music industry?
In the industry overall, I'd have to say no. I think we respect the performances, but I don't think that overall we respect the singers as entities, as businesses, and so forth. But I think that's also indicative of how we treat women for the most part in society. A second level down to men, we have a patriarchal society for the most part. And I think that we treat their art and their contributions to the arts in the same ways as a whole, not necessarily individually, but it's a male-dominated society and male-dominated businesses. So I think we always look at them as supports and second fiddles as opposed to leads and go-tos. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's changing though. I think times have changed. I think it's way better than what it used to be, but it's not there yet. I think from an economic standpoint, I don't think it's there yet. But you do have some exceptions to the rule. I think of the Taylor Swifts and the Beyoncés of the world. They can sell out stadiums just like a man can, and they do demand a ticket pricing as well. When I think of them too, what they can charge for their tickets to go to concerts versus men as well. So I think it's better when it comes to that from respectability from an industry standpoint, but not quite where we need to be across the board.
But there were some artists, especially blues artists back in the 40s and 50s, who, and I'm talking about the females, they did their own thing. They set their own rates, they sang their own songs, they had complete control over their pathways. But I don't think we hear the stories enough. I don't think that we see them enough. And again, if you don't have women who own record labels and all that kind of stuff, I think you run into those situations where the guys are dictating their careers and their art.
Especially back then, they may have had the poise and the talent, but they didn't have the distribution.
Yep.
And if you couldn't get it out there, it's one of those things. I don't care how good you are if no one can hear it or see it. I want to know what you think as well. And so let's get into this, man.
Let's get into it. So like we have done in previous episodes, we're going to talk about artists that we consider as foundational and those that we consider contemporaries. Foundational are basically those artists that you grew up on. Those are the ones that kind of set your musical palette and the things that you listen to as you get into adulthood. Contemporaries, though, are the ones that, as you got older, you begin to check for them on your own. Those are your go-to artists. It could be favorites, but they're not necessarily favorites, but they set the tone for what you listened to back then growing up and what you're listening to now.
Yeah,
so
and they're not necessarily industry standard. They're my standard.
They're your standards.
Yeah.
They're your standards. I mean, and some standards are going to be better than others, but we're going to leave it to
like
your
mine
choices.
be better than yours, for example.
Anyway, we're going to go with you first, and we're going to go Mount Rushmore style, which means that you got to go with 4. Your 4 foundational female artists.
Okay, my 4 foundational female artists, and I am going to leave a few people off, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to people out there. I'm just putting that notion out there.
Okay.
All right. So in no particular order whatsoever, I will start with Anita Baker. Anita Baker, her deep, jazzy, soulful, sassy voice, if you will, I think changed the game when it came out. And that Soulstress album with Angel and Got the Feeling Needing Me and Sometimes, man, that's on my rotation to today.
And to think that somebody told her that she couldn't sing or whatever.
Goodness. Right? Oh my, and just the uniqueness of her voice can take her to jazz, to R&B, to pop, to gospel. I mean, she can do it all. And she did do a gospel song with Marvin Winans. Ain't no need to.
Yeah. She sure did. Mm-hmm.
In the morning. So Anita Baker, Patti LaBelle. Can't go wrong with Patti. Not only can't go wrong with, she got to be in that top 4 as well. If you don't have in your top 4, it's blasphemous, but we'll go from there. So Patti LaBelle, I like to think of her as a controlled chaos improvisational singer, because you do not want to come after Patti. I'm talking, if you give her the microphone, you better take it first, because Patti's going to bring it home, and like no other can. And so I love the If Only You Knew and Love, Need, and Want Your Baby, and all the songs that she had, just beautiful.
So was it just Patti LaBelle, or did you go back to when she was in the Bells?
Yeah, that too. But when she became that solo artist, I think she really came into her own, where you could see the true talent of who she was.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go back a little bit to Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. If you don't have her in your top 4, that's blasphemous as well. As far as from a foundational standpoint, you listen to her songs, Ain't No Way. I mean, the pain in her voice when she's singing that, and she could be in church singing that song, and just the beauty of her voice as well. I mean, she can just go in any range that's there and make you laugh, make you cry, make you jump up and down, make you go lay down and feel depressed. I mean, she just has that power with her voice to put you in any kind of mood you want to be in.
And so just to even expound upon that just a little bit, when she sang that opera, Pavarotti or whatever, man, that, she was, it was one thing to be, for her to have the career that she had, but then to go in and sing opera and sing it like she did.
Amazing.
Man, that was amazing.
Amazing, truly amazing. And then the 4th, I put Whitney Houston. I think you got to put her in there as well. That her first hit, You Give Good Love. She has the pedigree with her mother, Sissy, rest her soul. She just passed not too long ago. And then her first cousin, Dionne Warwick, as well. So it's in her blood. She had the showmanship, the style, just the charisma of the stage. When she got on there, she drew you to her as well. So my top 4: Aretha, Anita, Whitney, and Patti. And I don't want to say an honorable mention, but I have one more I want to throw in there. Barbara Mason. Barbara Mason, late 60s. Yes, I'm Ready. And I Do Love You. The group called GQ redid that really nice. But she had just this sweet, gentle, innocent voice. She can blow. Yeah. She can blow. But I'm thinking specifically about Yes, I'm Ready, that song, her version of that. If you hadn't heard that, go look it up. I mean, it's a beautiful song. Jeffrey Osborne redid it as well. But original Yes, I'm Ready is just a beautiful, innocent type song, if you will.
And I think she did 1 or 2 disco cuts that I remember. But Patti has some up-tempo songs. Aretha has some up-tempo songs. So I mean, that's solid. I mean, you went the conservative route, the easily accessible. I'm
gonna throw one more in there. I'm gonna throw you off with this. Donna Summer.
Donna Summer? Okay.
Donna Summer. She was a disco queen.
She could sing, though.
But she could sing, and you listen to her song. She had an intro. I can't think of the name of the song. She had the intro to her big song, her big disco.
The one that started off slow. don't think that I can make it so long to make never know that recipe again.
No, not that one, but she did it on that song too. I think of it in a second and come back to it, but she actually really can sing. And I brought up because people don't think of her as a singing at disco, but the lady had the pipes, y'all.
She was good. She was solid. She was solid. No, any more honorable mentions?
Nah.
I know you had 4. Then you had
I threw 2 out there because you've been breaking the rules, so I had to keep up.
So you want to break the rules first? So let me get to my 4 foundational. But first, I'm gonna break the rules, and because a couple of my honorable mentions are on your list. Whitney would be one of my honorable mentions. Aretha's on my honorable mention.
It's a shame.
I tried not to go the conservative route. I tried not to go with the easily accessible route. So mine are going to be a little bit different.
Honorable mention in the same voice, man. That's just ain't
right. Aretha's just ubiquitous. Everybody knows. I mean, she's the standard. So I try not to go with the standard. I try not to go with the standard. That's what I try.
You should apologize.
Anyway, my other honorable mention, Jean Carn, who sang a lot of Philly International. She also did a lot of jazz stuff before she got to doing the R&B stuff. The lady can just sing to me. She's one of my unsung heroes, if you will. Not only did she do jazz stuff with her husband, Doug Carn, but she also did some stuff with like Norman Connors and some other jazz artists too. So Jean Carn is my honorable mention. The other one is another artist who started off in jazz, but did some standards and did some other pop stuff. And this is Nancy Wilson, to me, who was like the epitome of class. Had a chance to see her in concert back in the 90s, I believe. I think it was in New York City. And she could still
She's one of your foundational.
No. This is not foundational. These are my honorable mentions for right now. I'm getting ready to get into my foundational, go over my 4, and I'm going to keep it at 4. But those are my honorable mentions.
All right.
First on my foundational female artists, go with Phyllis Hyman. The statuesque beauty who could sing anything and everything. She's right there on my list of those artists that her sound was just a part of my childhood. Love Phyllis Hyman. Love when she did some later work on with Spike Lee in School Days. Yep. The lady could just sing to me, and she was fine.
Yeah.
The second one that I would say is Sade.
Yeah.
She came out in the time in the mid 80s, late 80s, when smooth jazz was a thing. I think that R&B was kind of losing its ground, if you will, but she came with a sound that was different, that was unique, and that was just her own style. She may not be the greatest singer, but she had a style.
Yes.
Whether it was the look, whether it was the sound, doesn't really matter. She came with the it factor that just kind of changed the game to me.
Agreed.
My third would be a Chicagoan, Minnie Riperton. And when I think of Minnie, I think of, her starting with Cadet Records, a Chicago label with Rotary Connection, her singing background for Stevie Wonder and some others. But then she really came into her own when she dropped her albums, and she could just sing.
Loving You.
All kind. I mean, there's so many Minnie Riperton songs. I just hate the fact that her career was cut short, unfortunately, and she didn't have as many releases as one would have liked. But Minnie Riperton was just bad, bad overall.
And she get that whistle note.
That whistle note, yeah. And my last, and I guess this is kind of a theme with a lot of the female artists that I like. It's one who can sing both R&B and also jazz, and she's also from Chicago. Chaka Khan. All the way from Rufus days, all the way up until when she was doing her own thing, even to now when she was doing work with Prince and stuff like that. Chaka has always been on my list as one of those go-to artists. Yeah. I absolutely love the stuff that she was doing in her first 3 or 4 solo albums, and Arif Martin was the producer on those. Chaka is definitely not only my foundational, but one of my favorite artists.
Yeah. Last Dance was the name of the song.
Oh, okay, yep.
For Donna Summer at the beginning. Go listen to that, y'all. The beginning of that song, she shows her talent. I like your list though. It's you're getting better at it. You're getting better at this as we progress. So I'm proud of you. Thanks
a lot, man. I appreciate that.
I do want to mention a couple more people just to mention, so we won't leave anybody out. Tina Turner as well. Yeah.
Before you get to a couple more, for whatever reason, Tina never really did it for me. and it's not just Tina, but it's Ike and Tina. And I know Ike is supposed to be one of the, foundational fathers of rock and roll and all this kind of stuff. But they never really, they never did it for me.
And I'm talking her voice. I'm talking specifically how she sings. Her voice was so unique, and one of the first with that raspiness that she had in there, and that made her made her very unique. That a lot of other women couldn't hit those raspy type notes that she could to sing those type of tough songs. And she's been a trailblazer for Layla Hathaway and a lot of these other singers that have deep, deep voices like that. Even Anita Baker, so to speak, And Gladys Knight, gotta mention Gladys Knight as well. Neither one of us.
We're not talking
but
about
I want to mention
the
them.
best. We talk about the ones that mean something both sides. But Gladys Knight, absolutely, man. She can sing.
Okay.
And it's a bunch of Gladys Knight / Gladys Knight and the Pip songs that I would say are
neither one of us
high on my list in terms of performance.
And those lyrics, man. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I love Gladys' voice too. So we're gonna talk contemporaries. These are our go-to artists today. So these are the ones that are still out and still singing today. I'll go first on this. I'll go first on this. First, let me give a couple of honorable mentions. All right. So I'm gonna take
see why I have to do this.
Yeah. Right? So I got to take from you and then make you one of my favorite or foundational artists overall. I'm adding to this list of just my contemporary. My second list. They didn't make the top list. This is my honorable mention list. Mary J. Blige, and for me, Mary J. It's not it's not that she doesn't have a consistent product. She doesn't have a product that I like consistently. She releases so many albums, so many songs that some of them I'm like, yeah, I really, really love this. But others I'm like, that may be a little bit too pop, maybe a little bit too hip hop, or maybe just not my flavor. But she gets on my list of honorable mentions.
Let me ask you a quick question about her. I mean, so are you talking about her songs or the way she sings?
No, her songs.
Her songs.
I love the way she sings.
Okay.
But it's her songs, sometimes they just don't necessarily always appeal to me.
Yeah, so I put Faith Evans in her category, and I have Faith a little higher.
Faith can sing.
Yeah.
But Faith isn't, again, these are the artists that when they release something, I'm going to get it right away.
Okay.
Jasmine Sullivan is another one of those artists who I really like, but I don't think that her content always fits into what I'm ready to receive. She's writing from the female perspective.
Yeah.
I like her song that put on the map. I busted windows out your car. I'm just not gonna go around singing
that song. Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You like it, but you can't relate.
Right. And a lot of her songs though just kind of have that strong female perspective. Yeah. Great song, but it's just like
she's been through some stuff.
Some stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Janet Jackson, who's almost like the equivalent of her brother Michael Jackson when it comes to pop music and R&B music.
What?
To me.
Don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, Janet's been around for a long time.
She's not almost equivalent to Michael Jackson.
I take that back.
Please do.
She's not there's nobody who's the equivalent of Michael Jackson, right? Period. We'll leave it at that. But in terms of being able to do everything from R&B to pop, she's up there. But she's an honorable mention for me. She's not going to be.
She has some wonderful producers.
Oh yeah, she does. And whether or not you think you can sing or not is going to be a different question. We're not going. Matter of fact, that might be another thing that we can talk about.
I didn't say that.
Now, I know you didn't say that, but there are people who will say that Janet couldn't sing, and I'm scratching my head like, wondering how do you figure that? Anyway.
But you know what? I think Janet kept it real from that standpoint. She never put it out there like I'm this great singer.
Right.
I think she stayed in her lane. She was a performer. She's an entertainer. She can dance. She's pretty.
Yep.
She's fine and all that. But she never pretended to be something she wasn't when it comes to that vocal element. Right. So I give her that.
She's on my honorable mention.
Okay.
My last one is an artist who I just think needs a broader body of work before I consider her my go-to, and that's Victoria Monet. But let me get into my 4 contemporaries that are my go-to.
Yeah, 4 more after that.
This is the main one. So you can kind of just log them in the back of your mind and focus on these 4.
Okay.
Number one, not no particular order, but my first one would be Layla Hathaway. Again, going back to this theme of artists who can sing both R&B, both jazz, and just do a number of different things. Layla fits that bill. I love her husky voice. Love the fact that she sounds like her father, Donny Hathaway,
Yeah.
but she can just do so much. Her range is ridiculous. Great live concert, all that kind of stuff. So she's on the list for me as far as go-to artists that I just I pick up on. The next one is, and these are relatively newer artists too. The next one is a young lady by the name of Cleo Soul, who comes out of the UK. She sings with a group called Salt. Reminds me a lot of Minnie Riperton, but she's also done her own thing outside of Salt as well.
All right.
When I listen to her, I get a Minnie Riperton vibe. She had three albums that I picked up recently. One was really just about motherhood, and even though that's something that I can't necessarily align with or understand because I'm obviously not going to be a mother, I can understand her perspective, and I love the production and the way that she sang those songs. But that's an artist that I check out on a regular basis.
Okay.
The next one would be Brittany Howard, who came from the Alabama Shakes.
Yeah.
Now she's not necessarily R&B, but she's very, very, very soulful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she can give you a rock vibe. She can give you some funk too. And she can sing. She's one of those artists that I just find very interesting. My last one though is one of my favorite artists right now. She's a young lady by the name of Cy Smith. She's been around since the 90s. Another one of those artists that remind me of someone in the past. And I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but she definitely has some songs on her last album, Until We Meet Again, that remind me of Minnie Riperton. She performed with Chris Body. I think she goes on tour with him. She sang with Sheila E. and a number of different artists, but she can really sing well produced, well crafted albums. And that's definitely one that I would say to be on the lookout for.
Okay. All right. So that's your contemporaries.
That's my contemporaries.
All 57 of them. That's your contemporaries, huh? All right. So let me see if I can keep up with you, man. Keep up with you. This is my contemporary. So this may be someone else's foundation or what have you. May think it's a little older, but Lettucey.
Yep.
Lettucey. She's still bad. Love her music from jump. When I think of Lettucey, I think of controlled power. And sweetness as well. I mean, she has that lullaby-ish type voice that can just go from low to high and stay in that high pitch range. And I just love her voice and her music. This is in no particular order. Jennifer Hudson. Love her voice. And Jennifer can sing anywhere. I mean, she can be in an interview. She can be coming out of McDonald's, whatever. You put a microphone in front of her, and she can sing, and you don't want to go after her.
And she represented herself very well in the Aretha Franklin biopic. I mean, she sang her Aretha's songs, but in her voice, and she sounded great doing it.
Yes, and I love Jill Scott. So Jill Scott as well, the poet singer, as I label her. Just great lyrics in her songs as well, and Heather Headley, I love her also. And I said she has this, projection voice. She does not need a microphone. You can just put her somewhere in a stadium without a mic. She just has that voice that projects out and it's loud and powerful. I love the words to her songs as well. She did do some Broadway. She did some Broadway out of Toronto. I think the first Broadway play she did in '96 was Ragtime or something like that, and then she not Broadway, but then she moved to Broadway after that.
And I always thought that she could, she was a great singer, performer, whatever you want to call it, but she just didn't have a lot of releases that came out that allowed me that would allow me to put her on my list of go-to artists.
You just mentioned a couple of people that only had
no, they're recent. They're recent. So I'm checking for them now, right? Okay. But Heather Hadley she came out in the mid '90s. 2000s or something like that.
Yeah.
She shot up, and then it was, and that's one of those things that's interesting.
Yeah.
Great performer, great singer, but then it's like, what happened to him? Where did he go?
Well, it could be a couple. It could be interest, and it's just the difficulty of the business, man. It's not an easy business to stay afloat, get good writers, good producers. The time it takes, life happens, right? And so other things, sometimes they take a break and comes back. But I'm talking, for me, contemporary, when I think of the type of music that I like, the type of singing that I like, I still can go to her albums that she did make, and just enjoy that.
So she's right along the same lines to me as Deborah Cox, somebody who could sing, but for whatever reasons doesn't have a large body of work that I can continue to go to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I mean, there's a bunch of other artists that probably deserve honorable mentions. I mean,
yeah,
Shantae Moore would be another artist who I she can sing,
right.
And she has that whistle range as well.
Yeah.
But she's not one of my foundational artists, contemporary or otherwise.
Yeah. And you mentioned not necessarily a short-lived career, but maybe not the body of work that we want, because we want more. We want more from these artists, right?
So it's the recorded body of work that we're talking about, not what they do in concerts and all that other stuff.
No, I get it. I get it. And what I was going to with that is, maybe one day we need to talk about these one-hit wonders, right? Because there's a bunch of them out there with just one hit, and then where do they go? But they have a signature song. But I think it speaks to how difficult that business really is.
I would agree.
Other person I want to mention as well is I don't like honorable mention, but I would add to my list her.
Yeah.
I love her. She is dynamic. She actually is a musician. She can play the instruments as well. She plays guitar, and I believe several others. And this is a little older, but I love of us is Christina Aguilera as well. She can blow, man. She can blow.
So you might as well throw Barbra Streisand on the list too. Man. But
that wouldn't be a bad pick either.
Some of these artists, they just don't have enough stuff out there for me to listen to. And her.
So you saying your four contemporaries better than my Jennifer Hudson, Lettucey, Jill Scott, Heather Headley, and her?
I'm absolutely saying that they better than my.
Y'all talk, please.
Brittany Howard, Sal Smith, Cleo Solette, Layla Hathaway.
Sniffing that Shinola over there, man. What you doing?
You got to listen to them. Just don't go by what's popular.
I'm not going by what's popular. So you saying my people don't have substance?
I'm saying mine has more substance. That's what I'm saying.
Your contemporary list has more?
Mine has more substance.
All right. Please, we want to hear from you.
What do y'all think? What are some of your favorites? What are some of your foundational? I mean, those artists that you grew up on that you love, and what are some of the contemporary artists that you check for on a regular basis? Yeah. Whenever they launch a release, you're listening to them. So we appreciate your time and attention. Connoisseurs and Conversations. Until the next one.